Gentlemen, welcome to Masculine Charisma. And in this episode, we're going to be looking at 10 ways to be an irresistible DILF. DILF stands for Dads I Like to. You get the point. So let's have a look at number one. So, number one is get into shape and dress well. You're worth it. And that's the message you want to send to yourself, women, and the world. Now, most men, especially nice guys, they don't really know how to dress. A lot of guys I work with, they're busy. They're busy on the computer. They work from home, and that way they get quite sloppy. They don't have put a lot of effort into their dress sense. Now, for myself, in my own personal journey, in my own personal development growth, I realized that I thought I was really good at dressing. So I remember going to Las Vegas with two of my friends, and we just turn up at the Venetian Hotel. We have this lovely suite. I put my suitcase on the bed. I'm starting to unpack. My friends are unpacking, and as I'm going through my clothes, I was like, okay, I'm pretty happy about it because I just went shopping just a couple of days before, and it was in a department store full of old guys. So as I'm unpacking, and then I look across the room and I see my friends unpacking, and their clothes just stood out. There was something about them. They had a lot of style to it. So one night I asked my friend, I said, look, do you mind if I borrow some of your clothes? And he was like, a bit reluctant. And he was like, Faisal, just don't get them messy. Don't get any drinks over them, food or sauce over them. I was like, I promise. Because he's the kind of guy who would spend money on designer clothes, really expensive clothes. So I think he had chinos, which were like a couple £100. So I was very cautious about it. So anyway, I'm dressed up and I just felt $1 million. I remember because it was after my marriage breakdown and my confidence was rock bottom. It really was rock bottom. So as I put these clothes on, I'm out with my friends and I'm feeling good about life. I hadn't felt like good about my life for some time. And the clothes made such a difference. I didn't realize it would, but it just made such a difference on the way I carried myself, I came across. And I remember going on that night. We were out, and Las Vegas can be quite difficult for guys to get into clubs because there's so many guys at that time. So eventually we came back to the Venetian and we ended up going to the Tower Bar club. And I was on just high spirits. I was just feeling good about myself. And that night, I just attracted so many people. I had so many different conversations. I ended up attracting this really cute redhead, and we had a really fantastic time. Even back to my room together. But it was just because I was in this different energy, and it made such a difference interacting. So again, getting into shape, feeling good about yourself makes a huge difference on your energy. All right. Actually, I show you a picture of, yeah, this was me. Look at that. Fred Flintstones on my jeans and another one, Barney on my jeans. You can tell that I wasn't into, I didn't really know how to dress. Anyway, let's move forward from this one. Okay, the second thing is work on your past issues and fractures with professional help, or they'll keep sabotaging you. Okay, so we all have blind spots. So the next thing is, get into shape, dress well, and also do the internal work as well. So that means there's 5 fractures that I talk about that guys really have to start working on. So after my own breakup from my marriage, I wanted to figure out what was wrong. Why did I make all the mistakes I did? I really wanted to figure out the mistakes. My background is computer science, tech, and I really wanted to solve this problem so it wouldn't repeat again. And reluctantly, I wasn't, jumping to joy on getting a therapist or help because, culturally, anything to do with mental health was like, no, no, no. It was like embarrassment. It was like, you don't want to go to a therapist or shrink to get help. What's wrong with you? So there was a lot of shame to overcome. But I started to go to seminars and I started to see that other people were getting help, support. And what really helped me was seeing other men on stage sharing that their problems. And I was like, oh, so I'm not the only one who's struggling, who has an internal turmoil, who has a lot of internal conflict. So it was so nice to see other men getting help, support, and then really coming out strong. So I was like, I want some of that. And that's when I started to get some therapy, get some coaching, started to really work on my issues. And you realize that it's never done, right? This work is never done. There's always going to be something that you are going to be finding out. There's always going to be blind spots. Even now, as a coach myself, who have been coaching for nearly 10 years, I'm helping other men, overcome the struggles like I did in my early part of my journey. I still have my therapists and coaches who help me identify blind spots. There's always something that I'm working on. As I say, new level, new devil. All right, let's look at number 3. Develop high value habits that help your mind, body, and soul. So, one of the best things that philosophers, old Stoic teachers, all kind of old wisdom will teach you is habits. So, habits make the man, habits make your character. And a lot of people, they just like, no, I don't do habits. Or a lot of people will start on something like New Year's resolution. How many of you guys have done that, right? So you started a New Year's resolution and you're all excited. You go, yeah, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to work out 7 days a week. I'm going to be going swimming, or I'm going to start a new habit of going to bed early, not checking my phone, whatever it is. Then after a few weeks, it just goes right down. I think 75% of people give up their habits or their New Year's resolution within a few weeks. Whereas masculine men, in order to redevelop a strong masculine foundation, one of the things I say is develop strong habits. I have a private men's group, so I have a squad group. I've got some like nearly a dozen guys in that, and it's a small knit community. And what we do is we do habits every single Monday morning. So Monday morning, we will do an audit of all the habits that we've completed. Okay, so we're not looking for perfectionism here. So some guys have done 7 out of 7, 5 out of 7. It all varies. So we do our habits. We have a lot of accountability, responsibility, and then we also share what kind of challenges we've overcome and the struggles that we faced, and also some of the wins that we've had. And this is the most important thing: is a lot of nice guys. A lot of guys can be quite negative aspect, so they look back at their week and then highlight all the problems. But in this one, what we do is we make sure that we highlight all the good things that have happened, things that you're proud of as a man, things that you've done well, because it's easy to overlook them. So habits will change your life. I think this is the only, if I had to give you one thing to change your life, like lasting effect, would be habits. If you want kind of like dopamine highs, you can go to big, seminars like Tony Robbins seminar. I mean, again, it was useful, but they're like all dopamine. They're like extreme highs, and you come back, and then everything tapers off and is back to the world. Even psychedelics can be quite like that. Psychedelics can change how you see things, but it doesn't mean you're going to change your habits. If you're still doing destructive habits, which is like going to bed 12, 1 o'clock at night, being on your phone all the time, get up in the morning, you check your phone, all of these quite habits can be quite destructive, especially with guys. I work with a lot of guys who are successful, right? They're killing it at work and business, but what they're doing is they're not going out, leaving the house. They have really poor habits of movement. And you don't have to be going to the gym every single day. I mean, I like to go to the gym just twice a week, but I like to move every single day. So I'll go for a walk at least 2 or 3 times a day. That's important for me and my mental health. So have habits that, excel and exceed what you're doing right now in your mind, body, and soul. Then another thing that attractive men, DILFs, do is stop trying to be liked by everyone, right? Be someone people will either love or despise. So the nice guy, the people pleasers want everybody to like them. They don't want anybody to judge them, be critical of them. So a guy who's trying to be liked by everybody is not going to be loved by many. Okay, so you're not going to be loved by people if you're just trying to be liked by everybody. So what I would say is have the courage to be disliked. There's a really good book, and it's called The Courage to be Disliked. I recommend you check that out as well. So stop trying to be liked by everybody and start trying to make everyone happy. I remember when I was, in my own journey, it was my son's birthday, and we My wife, she's a people pleaser, and that really frustrated me because she's running around trying to make everybody happy. So she wants the kids to be happy, she wants the parents to be happy, she wants every single thing to be in its place. And I said to her, right? So I wasn't taking my own advice at that time. Sometimes I wouldn't take it, but I was saying to her, stop trying to make everyone happy. Just make sure that the small things are done. But she just went out of her way, and that used to really frustrate me. So then I'm looking back at my life. I'm thinking, what are the things that I'm trying to do to make everybody happy? Because when you have functions like that, there's always going to be somebody who's going to complain about something. You're always going to have complainers. You're always going to have somebody who's negative biased and going to find a problem. I've got I'm making YouTube videos, I send out mailing list. I always have guys who are complaining and moaning about the little small things. And I'm going, why are you occupying your mind with small things? And when I say it to those men, I'm also saying it to myself as well, because, I can get stuck into this petty kind of thinking. So it's important that you're not wanting to be liked by all, that being judged by all, it's an important thing that to overcome. So that's a real ego fracture to really work on. Right. So the next thing is have a backbone and learn to say no. Right. She doesn't want a man that can be pushed around. I love the saying that if you can stand up to her, you can stand up for her. So a woman wants a man who has a backbone. So this is where I call healing the nerve fracture. So when men have a very spineless men, right, they're very unattractive. I remember, and this made me feel really sad. My mum said about my dad. My dad was a typical nice guy. I mean, he's loving, he's caring, but he wasn't a really strong masculine man. And he kind of caved in a lot. So he got pushed around by his brothers. He got pushed around by, even his customers and people around him. So he didn't have that strong backbone. And looking at his childhood, I can see why. He was very young. He was bullied a lot, pushed around a lot. So that kind of stuff, that kind of shit, you need to work on, right? You can work on that. So learn to say no. And that takes the courage to be disliked. That takes the courage for you to be criticized, ridiculed. And by having a backbone, having a strong opinion, you've got to stand for something. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So women find men who have a strong backbone who says, no, I don't want to do this, or I don't want to um, do something that, for example, when you meet somebody in a date, on a date or something, and you started dating, she may want to rush the relationship. And little guys, and I've done this as well, cave in. If you cave in quickly before the time and you're getting engaged or you're moving in when you're not ready, and she can sense that, she'll find that very disrespectful. And then she might throw up a lot of fuss in order to, some women might not directly communicate that. I mean, some women will, but most women I found and experienced, they will communicate through the feminine way, is that she'll cause a lot of challenges and really knock on the door, as I say, for you to wake up. So she'll push you around a lot until you stand up. So the guy who can't say no has no boundaries either. So that's an important thing to do. Heal the nerve fracture so you can have a strong backbone. Next thing is know what you want and be decisive, right? There's nothing more attractive than an ambitious man who's going somewhere purposefully, is having fun on the way. Now, a lot of men are indecisive, and especially nice guys. First of all, they don't know what they want, and they don't know, how to get it. Or maybe they do know how to get it, but they don't always being decisive about it. So how many of you guys are like, I'll go with the flow. I'm pretty cool. I'm pretty relaxed. So what? It doesn't matter to me. Now, that might come across as like, oh, you're being considerate. You're taking people's opinions into account. You're taking in their needs and wants into account. So guys will, say, oh, what do you want to eat? And they're coming from a good place. Don't get me wrong. I was like that too. Like, it's coming from a good place. But over time, that grates on people. It's like, what do you really want? Stand up, tell me what you want, because people want to make you happy too. People don't want to make always get it wrong. So when people are like, I'll go with the flow, and then they choose something, and then you're not unhappy, and then you're unhappy about it, and then instead of addressing the problem, you kind of fester up all this resentment, and then one day all that resentment explodes, is because you haven't been making the decisions, you haven't been meeting your needs and getting your needs. So that then explodes, and then it comes and it turns out to be very ugly. So one of the things that I would say as guys is you developing this is learn to have an opinion and choose things. Be proactive. Don't just be lazy about it. It's like whatever. So sometimes, you can go with the flow. Sometimes you don't always have to make the decisions, and you can give your partner or give somebody else to make a decision. Sometimes I've been in this fog place, and I remember this girl I was dating, and she said, "Faisal, what do you want to eat?" And I was like, "I haven't got a fucking idea. I've got no clue." And I can see her getting really worked up about it. It's like, I want to make something for you. I want to please you. And she was really caring, really loving. And I was like, oh, I don't know. And I said, actually, can you give me three choices and I'll pick one? So again, what I've done is I couldn't always have a decision there, but I narrowed it down. And she's like, okay, I can cook you this, this, and this. I'm like, I want to go with this. So at least I'm leading here, and leadership is really, really important to a relationship. And again, I'm going to do some more videos on how important leadership is, how important that masculine role is, and how to balance that as well. I think there's a lot of misinformation there. So be decisive, learn to make a decision. If you get it wrong, so the ego fracture hates to fail, just be okay with making mistakes, failing, and being okay with the fact that sometimes those mistakes are going to be embarrassing. All right, let's go to number 7. Take risks and be humble. Go out, do something risky, uncomfortable, and take a chance. Go on. Now, it doesn't mean have to be crazy risk, right? So I'm not saying that you have to just, jump out of the plane without a parachute or something like that. You got to take calculated risk, right? So just really think about the risks that you're going to take. So don't go over the top. Take some risks. Go out. Approach a girl. Start a conversation. Start getting out of the house. I mean, guys, you are so successful at home, behind the computer screen, maybe at work. But when it comes to going out and expanding yourself, right? Expanding your social circle, expanding your hobbies, you guys are stuck playing and repeating the same old thing. So go out, talk to someone, start a conversation, just the small things. The thing about life, and my sisters really helped me to see this as well, is we can get stuck in our comfortable zone, right? So we can find our comfortable zone and just lock down into it. And when I came out of my marriage, one of the things I started to do was just leave the house, network, connect, because I neglected a lot of my friends. I neglected a lot of my own life. So this is called fusion, when you start to fuse and then you start to give up on your relationship. Not give up on your relationship, but give up on yourself for the relationship. So you give up all the things that you're interested in, your hobbies, and you just come home, or if you're working from home and you finish work, you sit down, watch TV, eat food, same old routine, right? So guys are really good at just doing rinse and repeat. That kind of keeps them content. It's not always the worst thing or the bad thing, but it adds a lack of less variety in their life. So the feminine loves variety, right? So too much variety is a bad thing, but too little, again, can create a lot of boredom. So get out of the house. When I started getting out of the house, I started to meet different people, different opportunities, different doors open. And that's one of the most important things is ask for things for yourself. Go out and take risks in the world. It's going to open up your world in an amazing way. Learn how to fill up your own bucket to recharge, and don't be afraid to get your needs and wants met. A bit like what I was saying about the last one is when guys get into a relationship, they just focus solely on the relationship. I mean, you speak to a lot of dads, and one of the things that a lot of dads do, and I get this information from the wives as well, the mums, right? So they'll say, "Oh, I wish he'd get out the house. I wish he'd do something for himself. I wish he would have a hobby. I wish he would go out with his friends. I'm guaranteeing you, most married women will say this. I wish he would get out the house. I wish he will do something other than just work and sit on the sofa and just watch TV. Again, I know, guys, you're recharging. Maybe your bandwidth is gone from working a lot. Maybe you're exhausted, and again, our testosterone levels drop in the evening, so they're quite high in the morning. By the evening, we've depleted them. So resting and then sleep helps us replenish our testosterone and recharge. So those things are important. But the way we are recharging in the modern day world is we're using a mobile phone, we're numbing ourselves. To me, that's not recharging. To me, that's just numbing, and that's depleting us even further. So going out for walks, going out in nature, going for a swim, going to the gym, um, meeting people, meeting guy friends is one of the best ways to recharge. I was listening to some sort of report, and it was saying that men need at least twice a week interaction with other men to recharge and rejuvenate. So having good male friends around you. I mean, I this is something I need to work back on after COVID. I kind of like lost the momentum of going out, meeting people, connecting with people. So now I'm getting back into that routine of just making sure at least a week or two I go out and interact with people. So there's many things that you can do. You can go to meetups, you can go on hikes, you can go to conferences, you can go to talks. There's always opportunities. As Tony Robbins said, it's not the lack of resources, it's the lack of resourcefulness. So that lazy part of you will keep you depleted and not leaving the house. Second thing is learn how to screen for great women and be willing to walk away. Even so, if you don't screen, you will scream. So one of the things that I'd say charismatic masculine men do is they screen for women. Most people, when they get into a relationship, they like each other and there's chemistry and it's like, wow. And then fusion happens. So usually the pattern for a destructive relationship is you find someone attractive, she finds you attractive, and boom, you're spending a lot of time together. The sex is great, it's constant, it's always there. You're in this massive high bubble, right? So in this bubble, everything is rosy, everything is amazing. And in that bubble, what's happening in the background is that you are fusing, you are connecting, you're latching together. And that fusion, that connection, that merging together is happening in the background while this bubble is keeping you in euphoria. The problem is that in this excitement and you're missing out all the red flags, you're missing out all the incompatible kind of like traits and characteristics. So everyone falls for this. I would say everyone, pretty much everyone, until you start to learn the lessons from the mistakes you've made, right? So you have to get burnt in order to learn, right? No burn, no learn. So I believe that every man's got to go through a really difficult relationship. It's like a rite of passage. Everyone's got to go through difficult parts in order to learn. But you don't want to keep on making every single mistake to learn, because the wise people learn from other people's mistakes. So the mistakes that you can learn is that you can start to learn to screen. And that takes a lot of discipline, a lot of habit work. So habit work will really help you here. Is that you might find a woman that's super attractive, but you realize that she doesn't have the characteristics that are compatible with you. And to be able to walk away, that takes so much energy, guts, power, self control, self mastery to walk away from a woman that you find sexually so attractive, but you know that she's going to be a hot mess and that she's going to ruin your life. You're going to ruin her life as well, to walk away from that. So that takes a lot of discipline. I don't think most people have it. Again, I think I like to have it, but again, we are all humans and we can all be walked, we can walk into, a fire, definitely. So, but what happens is as you get older and as you have more discipline work, it becomes easier. So I'm not saying that you're always going to be 100% there, but if you're there 90% of the time, you can walk away. Maybe you can walk away at a shorter time. So I remember when I got into a relationship early on, uh, I should have ended that relationship within 3 months, but I ended up staying in that relationship for 6 years because of guilt, shame, and that fusion. There was a trauma bond. There was a lot of guilt. There was a savior complex. I wanted to save this woman. And there was a lot of guilt. And she was saying that if you leave me, it'll be because, I'll commit suicide. And I was going, fuck, I don't want that on my conscience. I don't want to be responsible for that. And because of that, guilt, I stayed and did everything to please her, to make sure she's okay, and try to fix this situation. But it would never fix. It was unfixable. So that's why you need to screen for characteristics of the person that you want to date. And also you want to be working on your own characteristics as well. And then a lesson that I wish I kind of like understood. So my dad gave me a lesson, right? So there's not many things that my dad taught about relationships. Actually, we didn't talk about sex or relationships. There was too much shame around that. But the message he did give me was, Faisal, choose a woman who's compatible. And when you're 13, 14 years old, go, what the fuck does that mean? So only now in my late 40s do I realize what that means. Choosing a compatible woman is going to be the most valuable thing you do in dating, right? Not trying to impress a woman, not trying to get the woman into bed and say, look at me having lots of women, or how hot she is, or for women, if you're watching this, how much status he has, how amazing he is. The most important thing you'll ever do is choosing a compatible woman, guys, because when you do that, and that comes through screening, that would be the most important move, because it'll add a lot of contentment in your life, peace in your life, more happiness in your life, more joy in your life, more energy in your life. And it's not just about screening for women, but also screening for friends, screening for employers, customers. You've got to screen for everybody around you, and then select people who are more compatible with your nervous system, people that are compatible with your traits, your characteristics. So all the women that I've chosen in my life that haven't been compatible, I've shown up more anxious in the relationship. I've shown up more insecure in the relationship. I've shown up more hypervigilant in the relationship. So all of these things that choosing an incompatible partner chooses up. And sometimes the incompatible partner isn't like the 10 out of 10 most stunning person, but there's a trade-off. Everything has a trade-off. So choose somebody who's integrated, as in you find them attractive, but also they have a really good characteristics. Right, let's look at number 10. Just as iron sharpens iron, being in the company of like-minded men will assist in shedding your childish behaviors and advancing into manhood. So the last one is be around strong men. So one of the journeys of masculinity or growth, or rite of passage for men, is that being around men. I mean, when I started just focusing on my coaching business just on men, it kind of propelled my masculine growth even more. So when I first started off, I was coaching women. So I had a lot of experience of women's minds, how they work, what they like, what they don't like. And again, that's vast, that's huge. You can never learn it all, but you'll learn some things that can really guide you and help you. And I teach that to the guys. But the thing that really changed my own life from the inside was being around men, being called out by men, being supported by men, being seen by men, being loved by men, being respected by men, and also being challenged by men. So guys, if you're isolated, you're just working on your machine, you're working on your computer, but you don't have men supporting you, guiding you, challenging you, you will not hit the next level of growth. So that is crucial for boys to turn into men psychologically. And I remember my men's coach, he said to me, right, Faisal, time for you to go on a journey. I was like, yeah, I'm really excited. He goes, okay, time for you to go from a boy to a man. And I got really pissed off. And I'm like, I'm already a man. And I really got annoyed by his comment. He says, you're a boy psychologically. Now it's time to transition, to walk the path of men, masculinity. And he said, you'll be doing that forever, for the rest of your life. And once I kind of calmed down, my ego kind of calmed down. I was like, okay, this is the path I need to take. So it's not always going to be an easy journey, guys. And if you're looking to go on the path, I have a path called the Masculine Charisma Way, which is, stand proud as a man. So if you want to learn to be more charismatic on dates, to be more, add more charisma into your life, I never thought I would be the kind of guy who would ooze charisma and confidence. Do I do it for everybody? No, of course not. My ego would like to think so. I would be the most charismatic guy for everybody. But the reality is, some people are going to hate you no matter how good looking, how attractive, how charismatic, how rich, how wealthy you are. Some people are not going to like you. And then 33% of people are going to be indifferent. And 33% of people are going to really love you or like you or whatever it is. So, guys, if you want to be more charismatic on dates, check out masculine.co. There's a quiz that you can take so you can find out how charismatic you are. There's the 5 masculine fracture framework that I help guys with. So the 5 things that you need to work on, which is your heal your nerve fracture, heal your ego fracture, your emotional fracture, your sexual fracture, and your spiritual fracture. So you got to heal these 5 fractures to start living a life worth protecting, enjoying, and celebrating. All right, gentlemen, see you on the next episode.